What's going on, peeps? Chris Santiago with another video, and this one kind of, I think, is pretty much common sense. This is kind of like the one video, if you're in this kind of space, that kind of goes without saying. This is the kind of one video you see most often proliferated out there, and that's why not just guys, but men and women. But of course, I'm doing this from a perspective of a guy, of why I stopped going to nightclubs. And I mean, do I even really need to do a fucking video on this to say something that hasn't already been said? I mean, like I said before, it's common sense. It's really common sense. Now, just to lay a little bit of context for you, like most people in my, generation bracket, I'm a millennial. Um when we were younger, right? The kind of club culture, the club scene, it was very much paraded out there as, the in thing to do of what you want to do. It's just what young people did, basically. You would see it in music video. It's very, very much a part of hip hop culture, right? And even though and have always been a metalhead, as you can see up there, I was never really much into hip hop, but that doesn't mean that I was immune from that kind of, stigma of young people wanting to go to the clubs. Mainly not for the music so much, but why do we as guys go to clubs? And it's for one reason: to get women. I mean, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Back then, especially, that's what guys went to nightclubs, went to dance clubs, whatever you want to call them. That's what we went there for, because back then, it was kind of the only place. Like, I mean, yeah, there were coffee shops around, there were other venues, and that kind of stuff where you could meet people, but it just made sense that's where most single people would go if they wanted to meet each other. It would only be later on that we would find out that that's one of the worst fucking places you could be, or you could go to, or you could kind of frequent if you wanted to get into some kind of relationship. That's just, I mean, looking back on it now, what do they say? Hindsight's 2020. Excuse me. But of course, back then, what's the saying? You were young, dumb, and full of cum. So that's what we did back then. Anyway, to kind of get back on track here. Back in the late '90s and early 2000s, I started going to clubs. Fuck. Well before I was 21. I mean, I had kind of connections where I grew up, when I knew a bunch of older people that could get me into the clubs when I was, like I said, fuck, 17 years old. And that's kind of what I did when I was still in high school, mind you. This was even before I started getting out there on my own. I would get into nightclubs. People would pull strings. I never had like a fake ID per se. It was more on the word of other people that I knew that could kind of usher me through the door. But yeah, that's when I really started. I started going to nightclubs when I was 17, 18 years old. And man, let me tell you, it has a certain kind of seductive power, especially when you're in that age. And it just has this hold over you. And I got bit with the nightclub bug for a very, very long time. I, of course, started before I even graduated high school, but even afterwards, I became, what do they call it? A club rat, a club head. That was my thing. I used to go to a fucking club, no shit, I want to say at least, at minimum, 3 times a week. 3 times a week. Now, mind you, these cover charges, even back then, were not cheap. All right. I mean, yeah, it depended on where you went and where you were going. But I mean, we're talking anywhere from maybe 15, $20 all the way up to maybe $100 on certain nights. Especially on like weekends, Friday nights and Saturday nights, where they would have like events and shit. A special singer or a special DJ, a special event or a gimmick or theme night, whatever have you. Anyway, so that's kind of the way it was at the door. And back then, I mean, let me tell you, they were stringent as fuck on dudes. This is the crazy part to me. All right, I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but this is more or less like more or less a stream of consciousness type of thing. If you had a dick between your legs, let me just put it that way. they would look at you like you were a fucking criminal. Any little thing, oh, well, you have to do. What was the terminology that they would use? Grown and sexy, right? Get the fuck out of my face. These clubs operate on the backbone of men, right? If there was no men going into these fucking places would have gone out of business years and years ago, even more so than they are now. All right. But what boggles my mind and what's really crazy about it is you are going to treat your main demographic like shit. That makes no fucking sense. No fucking sense. But what they were banking on was the fact that most guys back then and today who are trying to get into these places are, like I said, late teens, early 20s, maybe late 20s, in that sort of demographic, right? Um, and we would have paid anything. We could have been treated like shit, which we were, and we just kept fucking coming back. Why? Because they were using the allure of sex. What's the old saying? Sex sells. It was as true back then as it is today. And we would keep, and I was just as guilty as anybody else. We would, like I said, be hooked because what will we see on the posters, on the advertisements, on everything that was put in front of our faces? A bunch of fucking drunk ass bitches in basically dressed in potholders, because that's all it was. They weren't dresses; they were fucking potholders. All right, mini skirts and tube tops and high heels and hoop earrings and all this other kind of shit. And I mean, like moths to a fucking flame. That's what would be getting us into those clubs, into those places, into those establishments, time and time and time and time again. A business model for years. What my point is, just to make a long story short, the reason that we kept going is because we wanted to fucking get laid. Period. Dot. I mean, sex is one of the most fundamental hooks out there for anything. It's a very, very powerful force. But again, getting back on the thing of, even though they were treating their main demographic like shit, they would look them up and down, any little thing, a hair out of place, or your jeans are too baggy, or your boots are too high, or whatever the fuck the case was. They could do all that shit, and you would still go back home, change into something else, wait another fucking hour in line just to get into that fucking club. And they knew that. They knew that you would keep, no matter how we were treated back then, we still fucking went back. Why? Because we were still living in the Matrix. That's why. But anyway, that's kind of where I was coming from. I was, always a big club head. When I went out into the military, when I joined the Air Force, I was stationed a bunch of different places. Well, one of my main duty stations was in Oklahoma City. And it's not exactly your club town, but they did have their places. And we always had our regular places that we would go to, and that's kind of what I did. And you know what? Even back then, I was kind of under the impression was, all right, I would go to these places, I would expect to get something. 9 times out of 10, I would come home with absolutely nothing. What's the saying that some of these people have? What's his name? Give a shout out to Coach Corey Wayne. You would have blue balls coming home, right? That's kind of what was going on, right? We would go there, we would, expect to meet a nice girl or a few nice girls, take something home, and bam, we would get married the next fucking year, or the next month, or the next week, or whatever it was. Of course, it never happened that way. I'm sure, maybe 1 in 1 million chances, that actually did happen. You won't find many of those stories, but I'm sure that's the exception to the rule. But the rule, nevertheless, was you would go there as a single guy, hope to get laid, hope to meet a nice girl or two, and come home with absolutely nothing. You were at least, I would say, $200 poorer. You had blue balls, like I said. You were probably drunk off your ass, and you had absolutely nothing to show for it. And that cycle repeated itself year after year after year after year after fucking year. Until, let me see. I want to say the last time I stepped into a nightclub was about 2014. So we're talking well over a decade ago. I don't exactly remember what the event was. I think my sister had one of her friends was her 25th or 26th birthday, some bullshit like that. I don't even remember. And they're like, "Come on, we're gonna do it at this club." Da 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 da. Fine, whatever. I was like, "It's only gonna be gonna be for a few hours. Why not? You know, what's the worst that can happen?" We stepped in, and then it kind of dawned on me while I was there. The music is too fucking loud. The music is top tier bullshit anyway. It is the worst hip hop. I'm not a hip hop head to begin with, but even that shit was like bottom of the barrel, bottom of the tier shit that you couldn't even fucking dance to properly. And then they have it at fucking 300 billion goddamn decimals. You can't even hear yourself think. I mean, literally, you are on the dance floor or you're wherever you are, right? The person could be standing this fucking close, speaking at the top of their lungs, and you still can't fucking hear them because that's how loud they keep that fucking music. So one, yeah, music is bullshit and it's way too loud. Number two, uh, let's go back to cover price. All right. Back then, it was absurd when I used to go regularly. Today, it's damn near impossible to get in. You got to take a fucking second mortgage on your house just to get into some of these fucking nightclubs. No fucking thank you. No fucking thank you. That is bullshit. I've heard stories of, I mean, charging outrageous cover prices. Like I said, 80, 85, 90, 100, $115 for guys just to get into these fucking places. Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you high? How desperate does a person have to be to pay that kind of money just to get into a shit show like these fucking nightclubs? Okay, and that's just the fucking cover price. That is just the fucking cover price. All right. You make it into this so-called club, right? The drinks. My God, the fucking drinks. For let's just say a regular, goddamn, I mean, I usually drink Heineken, right? Pretty reliable beer. It's not nothing crazy. It's always been one of my favorites. $9 fucking dollars for a bottle of Heineken. I can't even tell you or begin to imagine what it is for some of these other, so-called high premium lagers and shit, right? High premium porters or whatever. I mean, you're probably charging 20, 25 bucks a fucking bottle. Again, are you out of your fucking mind? I could go out there and buy a 6-pack for a fraction of that cost. Fuck you. And the shots? I mean, need I say more when it comes to that kind of shit? So again, you got the music is bullshit, too loud. The cover price is out fucking outrageous. The drinks, you have to, again, pay out of your ass. You have to literally go into debt just to get drunk in these fucking places. All right. Fourth reason. Let's go back to why the fuck do guys show up to these places in the first place? Huh? 90% of all men who go out are single and are looking for ass. So you are basically going into debt, right? Get treated like shit. All right. Wait in these lines, get disrespected up your ass. You can't even fucking hear what's going on in these fucking places. And to top it all off, the creme de la fucking creme, these fucking bitches who frequent these places think that there's some kind of fucking royalty, right? God forbid you should walk up to these women and want to talk to them, right? Want to introduce yourself. Hi, what's your name? I'm so and so. Can we sit down and talk? Can I, yeah, this, and that. They're liable to fucking launch some kind of a sexual assault lawsuit against you just because you had the fucking audacity to talk to them in a nightclub. Bitch, why the fuck are you here? So that's the fourth fucking reason. So you're telling me that all these reasons stacked up on one another, that's supposed to be some kind of fucking incentive for me to go out to these fucking places? Are you out of your mind? Like I said, after that little fiasco with my sister's friend that one night and dawned on me, I'm like, I am never, and I quote, never walking into one of these fucking places ever again, because it is a complete and utter waste of fucking time. Nightclubs are bullshit. They are trash. They are garbage. Fuck those places. You have a nice day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.